Hey guys, welcome back to some more. Let's listen to Tim talk about random crap as he plays Dungeon Hack. Some of the random crap we're going to start with, we'll be talking a little more about Dungeon Hack because I wanted to make sure you guys understand what the purpose is of this Let's Play. Because although we're going to try to get as far as we can and beat the game with Meg here, I really wanted some sort of thing in the background that I could have ongoing while I talk about other random stuff. My intention for this Let's Play was for it to be kind of like a podcast where I could talk about Dungeons and Dragons stuff with you guys and or random stuff about me being a YouTuber and so on. Get a little more about what I'm like, me Tim, than the actual game that's going on. And it would also give me an excuse to show that when that's a carrion crawler, and I hope you guys like that sound effect because we're going to hear it a lot in this dungeon. Probably should lower the volume just a tad. This is probably better. So really quick, carrion crawlers. They have many attacks. Thankfully, it's not hitting us with any of them, and it can paralyze us. Thankfully, in Dungeon Hack, if you're paralyzed, you lose the ability to attack and cast spells or throw items, but you can still move, which doesn't make any sense to me, but I'm glad it works that way. And if you're hit while paralyzed, you just take damage. You're not immediately killed, which is what they did in Pool of Radiance, other Gold Box games. So it's a little less severe in this game series. I wanted to show the game as well because I wanted to prove that I have played this game and that I'm willing to try a game if people can talk to me about, like, if I don't like a game, people convince me that, no, Tim, I think you would like this. I'll go and try it again with that in mind. And another game I had done this with was Dark Souls. I didn't like Dark Souls when I had first played it many, many years ago, and I wrote it off as it's just not for me. I kept dying over and over again to like the first area and the bull demon. I don't think I beat the bull demon. It killed me like 20 times, and I just gave up. Dying that many times to one of the earliest bosses will tend to do that. I think I died to the Asylum Demon like 3 or 4 times my very first time playing the game as I was trying to get used to the controls. But people pointed out to me, Tim, you will really like Dark Souls. It's the perfect game for you. It's exploring, you can walk everywhere, you take your time. You'll like it. And I eventually sat down. I was like, okay, you know what? I'll record it. I'll play it. You guys say I'll like it in the end. Why not give it a try? And we'll see if that's the case. And it turned out to be the case. I really like Dark Souls. I don't like any of the other ones in the series, which is going to get me in trouble probably with you, with all of you gamers. But the first one is phenomenal. I really enjoy the first Dark Souls. I've beaten it, I think, 3 or 4 times now. And I have several characters that are just waiting for me to also beat the game with them. And I try different gimmick builds. I play Fashion Souls is what it's called. I try to make thematic characters from other games and make sure they only have skills or use weapons and armor that those characters would have. Like, for example, Hattori Hanzo from Samurai Showdown, or Namira from the Mace video game and stuff like that. It's a blast. I love that game. And so when it came to Dungeon Hack, I don't have good memories of it. But I remember a lot about it, and Master Survival had pointed out that if I view it more like a roguelike, I will probably have a better appreciation of the game. And I do. But that said, I'm trying to be as fair and as, what's we're looking for, positive as I can. And I try to do this with games even if I don't like them. And because I'm not reviewing this game, I won't be able to give you a score at the end of it unless I actually finish my review system, which I'm nowhere near getting done because I'm very lazy. But it would get a higher mark than I would have originally given it if I would just had to give it one right now. Or especially if, when I was talking about this over at Eye of the Beholder, man, I was going to give this game like a 4. And I don't think the game's a 4. I think it's better than that. I don't know what I would give it, but it would get a higher score than that. 1 hit point gained, but we were a mage, so that's it's acceptable, and I'm going to have to play this. I mean, it has to be acceptable. It's the lowest amount you can get. I'm going to have to be happy with that. But I'm going to play this game like a roguelike as well, so no reloading, not even once. No matter what happens, we keep it. All right, so with this series as well, I am not expecting anyone to actually watch this game. Which is weird, right? Because why am I recording it for YouTube if no one's going to watch the video? But I'm expecting most of you will probably just, if you have this on, expecting is the wrong word to phrase it, because I'm not expecting anyone to watch to even visit my channel, let alone watch a video of mine. But the way I am thinking that this would work is that Dungeon Hack is a very repetitive game, and you're going to see me play the game exactly the same way. Every single creature is fought almost exactly the same way. Like 99.9% of the things are fought the same way. And, well, you've already seen me play the game for an hour, or heard me talk over it for an hour. The next few hours are no different than that first hour, and so it's a game where I think if anyone's going to be watching it, I was anticipating that they would have this on in the background as they do something different. Like, you put on a podcast, you have on like a... Oh, actually, this is a podcast. This is what this would be. You play a game yourself, which is like Dungeon Hack, which is a bit grindy or repetitive, but it's fun. You're in the mood to do something where you don't really think, but you want to listen to someone talk. And so that's what I was anticipating this would fill the void of. Because I've got who was it who left the comment on the video? Let me see. Because you weren't the only one. Hold on, let me see. Who was it? Red Venge pointed out that, and I agree with him, this is not the best game to watch. It's very repetitive and will be rather boring. Master Survival, you will probably like this because you like this game a lot, and I'll talk about this very briefly too. But like, one of my brothers stopped by to see the game, and he told me, like, we talked on the phone. He was like, "Tim, that's a really boring game." And I point out, like, I know, like, but it's like, I feel the same way, but my intention was that you would have this on the background while you do something else. So maybe, Dave, if you stop by, you could put this on your earphones and listen to me chat about dungeon mastering, which I intend to talk about in this video, while you finally clean your house. Sweep the floor in your kitchen, sir, and clean and scrub the floor in your bathroom. Get that done while I'm talking. You'll appreciate it when you're all done. All right, anyway. One thing I want to talk about before we finally get into dungeon mastering. My opinion on video games. Man, I'm just a guy with a YouTube channel. Like, I hope, and I can't stress this enough, like, all YouTubers, well, not all YouTubers, but, like, I don't view myself as special in any way. I'm just a guy. It's like, you could meet me at, like, the Wawa, a convenience store down the street. You might bump into me at Walmart. Like, you're not going to recognize me, probably. I don't have anything. There's nothing special about me. I'm not rich. I'm not popular. I'm not a super incredible programmer. I'm not famous. I haven't written any books aside from a few campaigns that I ran my brothers in. I'm just a guy with a YouTube channel. And while I have opinions on things, I don't think you should take me as the authority on anything in particular. Maybe you'll agree with me on my review or my opinion of a game or a game system or how things are done with certain games, but I'm not like the end-all be-all of this. And so it's something I do when I talk about games on my YouTube channel, and the games in particular that I play as well, is I try to be very positive about them. I tend to avoid recording games that I don't like. And if I discover a game is not to my liking as I continue to play it, I might stop playing the game because I don't want to feel overly negative to a game. I don't want to curse and swear at a game because of a game mechanic or a system that the game uses. On that note, if people mention games to me, I feel really awkward if I've never played the game before, or if I've played the game and haven't liked it, because I'll feel, man, me and some of my viewers, like, we have a common interest in many of these games. We like a lot of similar games, and it might be surprising if I don't like a game that they like. And I always feel bad when I have to say that I'm not going to play a certain game, or especially if I have to mention that I wasn't a fan of a game that someone else was a fan of. And so it's, oh man, I feel really bad about that. And then I have to get into, potentially, why I don't like the game that they like. And, oh, that's always bad, because, well, bad's the wrong way to look at it. I would like to, I really want to like the games that you guys like as well, but everyone has different opinions, and they have different tastes. Not everything is to the same people's liking. And so, this also explains why or try to explain why I try to be positive about the games I like, because if I'm focusing on what I like about a game, other people who like the game are probably watching me play that game, or games similar to it. If I'm negative on a game, I am always worried that I am being too harsh or unfair, and if I do those things... Those are bugbears, Tim. Take that! I can't cast a spell with that armor on. Still can't cast a spell with that armor on, Tim. I think this is the episode where I give up trying to memorize combat spells on the mage, and I use the mage's spells only as secondary buffs and for improved identify from here on out. Because Meg's gonna carry most of the weight by using her melee weapons. We don't need a club +1. Let's leave that on the ground. All right, so, can I give an example? Oh, I will. Oh, this is such a shame to mention this too, because the reasons why I might not like a game might be different why other people, like, some people might really like a game for the reasons I don't like it, for example. So, a game that Mark Williams had mentioned is a game that I think has a fantastic theme, and I like the score, I love the setting, and it's called Arcanium of Steamworks and Magic Obscura, if I remember what it was titled in its entirety. I liked the voice acting. I liked the idea of the plot. But, I didn't like the gameplay very much. I'd have to, see, this is one of those games where I feel like I should probably play it again just to make sure, but I'm pretty sure that the way the AI works in the game when it comes to combat is rather... It's not very good, I guess I should say. I wish it was done differently. The AI chooses a target, usually it's the closest target, and everything rushes that target and ignores everything else. That tended to be the way it worked when I had been playing it. And, man, you can just take advantage of that, and I totally was. And you kind of have to, given the way that the AI does the targeting. It reminded me a little bit about the old Icewind Dale video game, where, like, in one of the early areas, there were these shadows or something that attacked my group, but they all wanted to hit a single person, so I just ran that person around all my other characters who just stood there and beat on these creatures, and they killed them. Like, I'm gonna take advantage of the AI if it works that way, because it can be quite punishing if you don't. In Arcanum, some of the early battles will just slaughter you if you don't do it a certain way. And so, like, if you see one of the first battles I remember having a hard time with in that game was the 2 ogres on the bridge and the one stupid fighter. And man, if they get close to you, it's awful. They get you on the ground, and then you watch as they just stomp on your face and kill you. Oh, it's absolutely awful to watch them do it. It's wonderful because it's just brutal. It's like, God, I just got, like, someone of them kicked me in the stomach, knocked me on the ground, and another one just stomped my head into the earth and killed me. And my friend is now dead too. Wow. It's awful. But if you run someone away who they're targeting, while the other person just casts spells or shoots them to death, It's very easy to win that battle. So I don't think I'd be playing the game, unfortunately, because I didn't like how the AI functioned in it. I think it's a bit too poorly written, the AI. So, and I would totally take advantage of that for the entirety of the game. But thematically, the game I thought was phenomenal. I really love the idea of a steampunk magic world where the two don't they conflict with each other, and your character build you kind of want to be all in on one or the other. Although I did tend to like my neutral characters, but it was again, game was fun. I liked the writing. I thought the story was good. Graphically, it was okay. I loved the music. Sound effects were decent. Gameplay, I just didn't like the gameplay, and I thought the game had some balance issues. Some spell effects were significantly better than others, and some of the technology that you could choose was also better than others. Anyway, I'd have to play the game. I'd have to get far in it, and I'd have to probably record it to verify that I feel this way about it. But I'm pretty sure I remember it correctly. Anyway, this wasn't supposed to be talking about Arcanum. Let's talk about Dungeons and Dragons stuff, which is what I meant to talk about most of the last video. I've already spent freaking 16 minutes, 30 seconds not talking about this stuff. So, as you guys may or may not know, I am currently playing a 2nd edition, heavily modified with my rules, role-playing game with 2 of my brothers. Hopefully we can get my 3rd brother in on the gameplay action soon, and one of my other friends, Chris, who's been on my channel before. And it occurred to me that it might be fun to talk about the things that I consider and things I do as a dungeon master when it comes to creating an adventure and balancing it, or just running something for that matter. Because a few of you have mentioned that you would love to have played Dungeons & Dragons, but you were never able to find other people to play with. And with the advent of COVID, some people are probably still nervous about playing it. And, well, it's tough, especially as we all get older, to find the time it takes to be set aside to play a game. Because the funniest things about Dungeons & Dragons is it's you and several other people playing all together, with everyone playing different characters and the DM telling the story. But getting a group of adults together to do that can be rather tricky. It's difficult to find the time, especially if you have kids, or you have to work 2 jobs, or all sorts of other things which might be occurring. Real life, unfortunately, is not so forgiving with the amount of time it grants people to play things or enjoy the time. So, on that note, I'll talk about being a dungeon master for a little bit. So, the first thing I think is important about a dungeon master, which is going to be tricky if it's your first time being a dungeon master, is knowing your players. Knowing the type of people that they are, for example, and how they will interact with you during the game. Whenever I've played... hold on, I want to make sure I get this correct. Whenever I have DM'd a game, I have played with either real-life friends who I know and know well, or family members, and I am very grateful that I am part of a family who loves each other very much. We all get along with each other. There's no drama or anything of the sort. I have 3 brothers and my parents, and so I know who my brothers are and my friends, and I know the type of people that they are. So I know how they will play. Saying I know how to play the characters is a bit wrong, but I know that as players, I don't have to worry about them metagaming, for example. I don't have to worry about them min-maxing. I don't have to worry about them playing their characters in a way which would ruin the game for other players. This was actually kind of interesting, because I guess I'll go on a small tangent here. I don't have this written down, but I got to play the game with my nephew from my brother Joe's family, and it turns out that he cheats in Dungeons and Dragons, which is interesting because I have never encountered that before. He lies about what numbers he rolls in the game when he's playing his character. I have never heard a character who has made 20, who's rolled a 20 7 times in a row. He never seems to roll less than like a 16. And I won't play with him again. And I've told his father, my brother Joe, that I can't do it. And Joe was right there listening to him say over and over again, he rolls a dice, he's a 20. He has a dice, it's a 20. Next turn, he gets 2 20s. Next turn, he gets 2 20s. And man, he's either got the luckiest dice in the world or he's cheating. And my brother has seen him lie about the dice and try to hide the dice when he rolls in front of him. So that's super awkward. And what do? I don't. On one hand, he's my nephew. On the other hand, he cheats. I can't play with him. Not if he cheats. And so Joe has basically told him, hey, you got to stop lying about your dice. And he's like, I'm not lying. And Joe's like, no one rolls 7 20s in a row. We know you're lying. But I won't play with him again unless he's rolling in front of my brother. He's got to be in the same room with him. And he cheats because no one sees him roll the dice. So he's up in his room, and we play using Zoom. So we all have our cameras on. He's on his phone. My brother Joe has a webcam. I have a webcam. And so we're all playing together at a distance. But because no one can see his rolls, I think he's pretty confident that he can cheat. This is a real shame because it removes one of the funnest things about Dungeons and Dragons, which is reacting to how the dice end up. Now, I've mentioned in the past that I don't like killing my players. And if I feel they're rolling poorly, I will let them hit, even if they don't. Like, if someone has a losing streak of dice, like they've just made the 5th attack and they haven't rolled higher than a 5, I will tell, like, they'll be upset, but I'll say, like, hey, no, stop. Like, okay, I'm gonna let that hit anyway. Roll for damage and stuff like that, because I feel bad. I don't want the players, when it comes to a combat encounter, I don't want them rolling just poorly every single time. And so I'm willing to change the rolls. And we just got the best gloves in the game, right there, by the way, in the game. We just identified gloves of Fire Giant Strength, which gives us a strength of 22, which means that Meg is now a absolute beast. Yeah, I'm circling that in combat. She is, I think it's a +4 to hit with that, and +10 damage? 9 or 10 damage. I think it's 10. So she is as stronger than a fighter would be in this game, with the option to cast spells to heal herself and remove the hunger meter as being a concern. So she is incredibly strong at this moment. I don't ever see myself taking those gloves off at any time during this game. And we just heard a new creature. I think it's probably a white, based on the deepness of that that we just heard. Anyway, if I had known Ike was going to Ike is my nephew's name. If I knew he was going to cheat, I would never have invited him to play Dungeons and Dragons, because I tend to avoid players who do that sort of thing. Hopefully we can correct him from doing this going forward, because I don't want him to think he can get away with this. If he's going to cheat in a game like Dungeons and Dragons, where cheating doesn't really matter in this game, like, you're not playing this game to win. It's not like you're playing a board game where you're the victor. I don't think he realizes that yet, that it's mostly about the story and I view the game as about the story and the adventure, more than about rolling well and walking away with all the treasure, for example. It's about role-playing your characters in the world that are around them and trying to see if what motivates them and what goals they have are met. And it's fun to roleplay, obviously, in a game where just magic exists and so on and so forth. And that's supposed to be the most fun, to use your imagination to participate in the story. But he views it more like a game to be won than an adventure to be experienced. And so hopefully we can get him out of that rut. In any case, when I'm a dungeon master, I make sure that I only play the game, if I can, with players that I know will appreciate the type of game that I run. Now, with that said, what that means is that I'm expecting people who realize that it's a game. We're all there at the end of the day to have fun role-playing our characters, and that I am a story-heavy dungeon master. While there will be combat, what the heck? That's an illusionary wall. So that's what happens when a creature walks through it. It's right in the wall. So I know there's one around here somewhere. Hold on, I'm distracted by this now. Kill it. Very good, Meg. I don't know what's going on. What am I doing? Oh, we took a little bit of damage? I don't have any heal spells? What am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. I recorded this like 3 days ago, so I don't remember what I was doing at the time. There's an illusionary wall on my right. Meg, I think as a half-elf, can notice them. Alright, and nothing in here except for a horrible carrion crawler. 2 of them. Okay, I was mentioning story heavy. So, what I mean by that is that I do spend a lot of... I'll talk about this next. I spend a lot of time trying to have everything written in a way which tries to bring the players into the encounter that they are having at this moment. And most of my games, that's a white, are not hack and slashes. And I will, for the sake of story... especially if I feel like players are missing too much, override the dice, what the dice are saying. An Acid Storm Mage Scroll, we'll take that. A Tan Potion, we'll take that too. Whites are one of the creatures who can level drain you. And until we're level 5, we won't have any protection. Oh, and we are level 5. So we'll start taking negative plane protection as a spell now. In this game, negative plane protection will stop whatever negative effect an undead would have applied to you from occurring, and zap the undead for a little bit of damage. I think it's like D8 damage. And then the effect fades after it's hit the undead. It's incredibly powerful in a game where you have undead present. In this base 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons games, because you do not want something like a ghoul paralyzing you. You do not want to be level drained. And this removes those things as a concern. Our ring mail is better than that magical leather armor, so we put that on. In any case, back to Dungeons & Dragons. So I like when my players roleplay their characters, and I will often... How to say this? Force is a strong word to use for what I do, but I encourage... I think I will use force. I force my players to roleplay their characters. Like, if they're traveling from city to city, I will tell them, okay, guys, I have to, get some notes ready. For the next, 5 minutes, I want you to talk about something in character with your other characters. This way, they get to think like their characters a little bit and get into character, quite literally. And I like doing that. It's sometimes, with some of my friends, they were shocked when I was first doing this. I would make them do that. But they liked it in the end, being forced to roleplay the characters in a certain way. And I don't mind if any of them break the fourth wall or stuff of that sort, right? I don't mind when they do that. And sometimes I do that as well with other adventuring groups or so on. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I find it fun to encourage them to do this sort of thing. I think it draws them into the game world a bit. And I notice that the more my characters get into it, they'll start using accents for their characters. They'll start remembering things that they did in the past. Something I used to do is I used to have a fame meter so that when they were competing against other adventuring groups, depending upon where they were compared to other groups on that meter, would determine maybe which adventures they would be be able to begin. They might have a certain amount of they might be fame. I did call it the fame meter. I want to find a different word for it, but I can't think of it. At prestige, and so they would be well known, and they might get a quest that offers better rewards rather than just going out and looking for a dungeon to raid. They might actually be hired to do that sort of thing. And I encourage the players to roleplay, especially after they had just gotten back from an adventure. They would go to a tavern and they would tell their story about what they had just encountered there to all the people in the tavern. And then these people would spread it to other people in the town. And word would travel and would reach other villages. It was a lot of fun to hear my players talk about the things that just occurred, especially if there was a little bit of rivalry. Might be a little too strong of a word, but there was a good amount of banter that went on between characters at certain points. And it was funny to hear like one character describe events a certain way for another character to protest about how things went down, as it were. And it was rather humorous, and my players loved the opportunity to recount what had just occurred. I, in particular, liked doing this after a session had ended, when we had begun another session, because it gave me a chance to see what my players remembered and what they liked most about what had just happened in the last session that we had played. In any case, that's more about knowing your players, because I knew that my players would be able to do this and would find it enjoyable. I tended to avoid players who just want to crunch numbers to make characters as strong as they can. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I feel. My nose is tingling. That's a potion to detect food. And we don't see any food. Other than what I think is right in front of us. So that didn't work out so well. That potion. I'd rather not be a potion to detect food. I'd rather be a potion of food. There's a potion where you can drink it and it fills your food meter entirely. That seems like a much better thing to find than a food detection potion, which doesn't really work very well, apparently. Or maybe the only food we found. I'm pretty sure I do find more food on this floor that potion did not detect, which is a bit confusing to me. Now, as I had mentioned, this is kind of nice. So we get these creatures. These are shade mages. They can cast magic missile. Yep, they can hit you at range with a melee attack if they so choose, which I think is actually magic missile going off, but not having anything displayed for it. Most importantly, though, these creatures are worth a lot of experience points for how easy they are to kill, and so this will probably level up. We'll probably level on this floor at least twice, I'm thinking. Or 4 times for both our mage and cleric levels, as it were, combined. So, knowing your players is super helpful, and what type of adventure you want to run. It's good to know if your adventurers will like that sort of thing. Now, something else I do as a dungeon master, which is what I'm also doing kind of now in a way, is I find that I do much better when it comes to discussions and describing things if I have it all pre-written. Either literally, for Dungeons & Dragons, I have entire pages worth of dialogue between different characters or describing events as they occur, so I can read directly from it. And I think I've done my family and friends have all said that I do an amazing job at it. I wish I could. I want to be as humble as possible too, because I think they're being very kind. But I also do like a lot of what I write, and I think I get it right when I attempt to describe certain things or invoke a certain emotion or get a certain type of feeling across to my players. For example, in the a thief that my players were running made it into was able to infiltrate into a cult and realize that the cult consists of just normal people, like people in the city who were following the cult. They believed in its tenements and beliefs. They saw people walking around with like kids and their family, and they were all chatting and having a good time, eating amongst people here in the city. The people who had joined this cult had lost had lost homes, what have you, to a fire that burned down a huge section of the city. And when the thief was noticing this, one of my brothers was like, "This really changes everything, because they're not evil people, they're just people who believe in this. Either they're charmed, or they actually believe this, in which case that changes the way that they viewed their enemies, because they're not necessarily enemies, and they're like, we don't really want to fight any of these people. We want to try to convince them that they're wrong, or we need to somehow come to an agreement with them. We don't really want to kill normal people and their kids." And so that sort of thing gets across very well with the way that I tend to describe things. Anyway, when it comes to having things written to say, I have about 8 pages worth of notes right here in front of me, so I can stay on target and keep myself focused on things. If I have to wing things, I tend to blabber too much, or get distracted by things which, suddenly happen, and I go on tangents that don't make any sense for me. So having something to guide my thoughts, keep my train on track, is extraordinarily helpful. I can feel when something isn't working right. I can tell, because I've been attempting to fix some of my issues that I have, or social quirks, quips. I don't quite know how to describe it, that I have when trying to speak. I notice when I say or a lot, and I have fixed most of that by listening to myself talk while recording YouTube videos. I've mentioned this several times in the past as well, but just in case you're new here, I used to say and at least 2 or 3 times a sentence. And since stopping watching my videos and listening to myself talk, I've been able to correct this and stop myself from actually doing that, so I sound more intelligent. I've been attempting to listen to what I say as I say it, so I can correct myself when I say the wrong things at the wrong times. Like, I notice I constantly say the wrong words to describe things. I'll say, "Let's go right," and I'll go left, and I meant right, but I meant left, but I said right. And I do this sort of thing frequently, and it's very annoying, and it's another reason why I prefer writing things down. I prefer being able to collect my thoughts and think about what a situation would entail, and have all the different paths that my players could potentially do thought out in advance, so I can have things to read based upon the things that they do, rather than have to wing it. But as a dungeon master, you do need to wing things. You have to be flexible. I'll talk about that next. Let's get myself back now to running things down, because I'm already floundering here. So when it comes to a game like, I guess we're going to talk about video games a bit, but this is, I think, a good example of such. I am aware of what I'm saying, I'm aware of what I'm talking about, and I need to try to balance these things. I don't want to read directly from the papers, and I'm not right now. I'm looking at us kill these shades as I'm talking. Because if I read directly from the paper, it's going to sound rehearsed, and I don't like that. I don't want to sound like I'm reading from a teleprompter or something of the sort. I would rather it feel more natural. Although in Dungeons & Dragons, you are a storyteller, and it is perfectly fine and acceptable I feel to read directly from what you've written, to describe events as they are occurring, or just to read descriptions or stuff of that sort anyway. Even dialogue between what NPCs are saying can be very important, that you be able to read what you have written already. But for YouTube videos, I feel this is awful. I don't want to read directly from my notes for a YouTube video if I can help it. I think only once have I actually read word for word from something I had written down. Most of like right in front of me, I have paragraphs written. So of things I can read so I can mention these things, but I'm not reading directly from my notes word from word. That would just be awful. I guess I'll talk about a little bit more about YouTubing before I go back to dungeon mastering here. So when it comes to speaking in a video game, or when it comes to my YouTube videos, I sometimes do reshoot a video. The most recent Eye of the Beholder, well, not the most recent, part 8 for my Eye of the Beholder series was one where I had recorded me playing the game, and then I recorded my voice afterwards, similar to what I'm doing here, because I'm watching this with you guys as I'm talking. I have already recorded some episodes of this game, and I'm talking over it. And I decided to scrap the audio portion of it and re-record me talking, because I could tell that I did the same thing that I had done earlier, where I spent way too much time reading from my notes and not talking about what was happening on screen. As I mentioned, I can tell when this is happening, and I begin to wonder, can my viewers tell the same thing? And the answer is yes. Yes, you guys can. And so I am aware of this. It would be as if, something else I'm aware of, like, is if I'm sick, I'm not going to record a video, because I don't think you guys need to hear me snort into the microphone every few minutes, which some people do occasionally, and man, that's not attractive. I guess that's all I'll say about that really quick. I notice it. I'm not going to go into this for too long, but I'm going to talk about this rule I have. I try my hardest to avoid talking about anything controversial or anything political in my videos. I think that's not why people are here. You're not here for my hot takes on politics or the like. No one cares about that. And, well, it'd be awful. I feel like I would be abusing my channel if I did so. I'm a Let's Player channel. I'm not a political channel. And most political channels are just awful anyway. So I don't think you guys are here for that. There have been times in the past where recording Underrail, for example, I veered into politics briefly. And when I began to hear myself talk about it, I realized that even though I'm being a little vague, this is bad. I don't want to do this. And I would delete the video and reshoot the entire thing. In some cases, for Underrail, that would mean re-recording an entire, like, 2 or 3 episodes, including everything that I did in the game, because I didn't have a backup, aside from a few videos ago. But I think it's worth it. And on that note, when it comes to Dungeons & Dragons, I try, I mean, we all have different leanings, but I try to avoid getting into politics there or religion there very much as well. I prefer the game to be more, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind? That's wrong. I don't know the word to use. I find everyone gets along with each other much better if we avoid any topics which could be construed as controversial, or that I know people will become heated about. Right, okay, so I think that it's well worth the time spent to write down things that you want to talk about with your players, to describe things. And I think it's very important that you review what you have written as well. Proofread it to yourself. Make sure it reads and sounds correctly. Read out loud to yourself. Hear what you say. Read each word. See where you're making mistakes or when you could use different words. Try to avoid using the same word like 15 times in a paragraph. Mix it up a bit. Restructure your words. Make sure that you've got all the details that you want your players to realize described for them, so they can catch any hints or notes or hooks that you want them to have. On that note, similarly, I guess like recording a YouTube video is very similar to being a dungeon master of sorts. Watch your videos. Watch your videos when you upload them. Make sure you like what you upload. Listen to yourself when you speak. Do you find what you're talking about, what you're uploading, do you like it? If you don't, reshoot it, or make it a point of discussion. Like talk with your viewers about it. Like, hey, I noticed I do this. What do you guys think? Do I do this too much, or stuff of that sort? It's, man, I can't get over enough how helpful it is that you to be critical of your own videos and make sure that you like what you are uploading. On that note, be open to criticism as well. Constructive criticism, of course. If someone's just being insulting, you can just ignore that. That's not helpful to anyone. And so, but otherwise, if someone is, as some of you had done for the Eye of the Beholder, let me know what you think of what's going on. Be honest, because I would rather you guys be honest, because I can make corrections, than lie to me. And then I find out, like a year later, when I go back and watch my video series again, and I'm like, oh god, this was awful. Why did no one tell me that I'm snorting the entire time I'm recording this game, because I recorded it while I was sick, and I forgot to mute my microphone, or stuff of that sort. Man. On that note, it's not Dungeons & Dragons related, but when it comes to video or audio tearing or issues, let your YouTuber know when this occurs. They might not be aware of it. I used to be particularly bad at it because I was rather lazy when I came to checking the audio volume. Many of my earlier videos, many of these no longer exist because I've torn down most of the videos prior to 2014. I've been around on YouTube since 2009. In any case, most of my prior videos were awful, and I thought it was as easy as just recording a game, hitting record. That's all it takes. That's all you need to do. Then you upload it to YouTube. There's a lot more involved than that. And audio issues are something that many people have. They can be honest mistakes or problems, but checking your videos first should be something you do before you upload them to make sure it's acceptable. Now, live streamers, you have chat you can bounce off of, so that's completely different. And at some point in the future, I'll talk about live streaming versus Let's Playing, because there's quite a bit different there. I think live streamers have it easier and more difficult. Some things they can get feedback right away, and they can play off the chat, so they have things to talk about with their chat that their chat is interested in. But for me, man, I gotta hope I come up with everything good to talk about and fill all this dead air with stuff that isn't dead topics to listen to. Anyway, back to being a dungeon master. So, having things written down, having everything pre-planned, and guessing what your players do because you know them is all really important, and it will help speed the campaign along. But, as any dungeon master will tell you, your players will do things that you did not expect them to do. So, you have to be flexible in handling these events. It can be really difficult if your players don't follow the breadcrumbs you left or engage in a combat situation in ways that you weren't expecting. I always tend to go with the flow. I usually go with the flow of what my players are doing. Sometimes, though, I will tell them that, like, hey, I don't have this, like, written. So if you want to do this, this is perfectly fine. But I'm going to wing it. And that's just my warning them that I don't have notes written down. And that I'm going to want to work on this, the way, like a path they're taking. I need to... If we finish a session and we haven't finished that adventure, that I will spend time working on the new path that my adventurers took. In college, I had to create an entire like dungeon that my players went in for 4 hours on the fly. It was in a swamp, and I had this like crumpled map that I had made, which was supposed to lead the players to a particular ruin in the swamp. But there was these like notes I had written with like a hand pointing off the map, and my players wanted to go there instead. Now, there was no reason for them to go to either one of these locations, but they really liked the way that the notes had described what was over there, and it was closer to the town in the swamp. So they figured they'd save supplies, they'd go to this ruin, they'd go back to town, and then if they felt like it, then they could go back out in the swamp again. I never anticipated that they would do this, so I had to come up with, right then and there, an entire adventure in my mind. This is because I'm a big fan of choices matter. Similar to the one Dungeons & Dragons game I was trying to describe, the beat 'em up, I think it's like the Tower of Doom or something like that, where if you went in one direction, you never saw what was in the other direction. I decided that, if my players do decide to go back to the swamp, I'm going to want all of this prior stuff I made to be in that direction, as if I had written it, and I don't want to just move it over into their new direction. I want that to be something different. So I had to recall a dungeon I had played like a decade ago with one of my brothers called the Ruins of Lotaeri, which was in Dungeon Magazine 13. I didn't remember much about what was in the dungeon, but I remembered the layout of the ruined castle rather well, and I was able to fake it, and my players loved the adventure. I made it kind of creepy with like these statues that would like turn their heads to watch the players. There was a magic rug that tried to engulf one of the players. I had some traps there. My players found some treasure. They fought some gargoyles in the courtyard of the ruin, just like it was in the Ruins of Lotaeri. It was good, and they loved playing their characters in it, despite the fact that I was coming up with everything they were seeing in my mind as they were encountering it. I think it's good to have such interactions, since it keeps you on your toes as a DM. On that note, be prepared for your players when it comes to like asking questions or what have you, to ask questions that you would have never thought about and be ready to answer them. It's difficult to give any advice in that regard, because you can't you can't expect the unexpected, and players are always doing this to you. But it's part of the fun of being the dungeon master, trying to see if you can come up with things, and also trying to be fair. So, when it comes to certain things, I guess I know I've talked about this a little later. Here we go. Okay. So, occasionally, as a dungeon master, you and the players will come into disagreements with each other about way things should be done, or perhaps the way a spell should work, or something of that sort. So, the dungeon master is always right? You have the last word in every single thing which occurs, or you should. It's your campaign. You're the one running it. You spend most of the time working on the campaign. In my case, I spend hours working on a single session. For the current session that I plan to run next with my family, I've spent already about 10 hours this week, over the course of Saturday, yesterday, and today, working on writing the events and the encounters that they're going to have. So you have the final word in what happens, but you don't want to really, I find, I don't want to rule with an iron fist. I would prefer not laying down the law to my players, and sometimes, to speed things up, if there's a rule disagreement, I honestly don't know what to do, and because I know my players very well, I know that they're not trying to get one up on me, as it were. They honestly don't know themselves, but they might think something works a certain way, and they're right, or they're not right, or I'm right, or we're all wrong, or something of that sort. So, what I do is I've taken to using what I call a fate roll. There was a adventure book series called The Way of the Tiger, in which you played a ninja, and I love the setting. I like the lore. The books were really unforgiving. Also, I'll talk more about adventure books a little later. Let's just say that I heavily modified it as well because I thought that the skills in the game were not well balanced among each other. Some were far more useful than others. In any case, there was a system in that game called making a fate roll. If you rolled a 7 or higher, you passed. If you rolled a 6 or lower, you failed. And so, if my players decide to do something, and I haven't thought of it, and I'm not sure what the result should be, I will tell them to make a fate roll. And what I'm looking for is let the dice decide. And a 7 or higher, I think, is in their favor slightly as well. So it makes it so that it go more often than not, it will go in the way they want, but occasionally it does not. And I do this to solve rule questions. If we just want to, like, we have a rule question, we'll look it up in between sessions, but we need to have a resolution of it right now. Make a fate roll. Let's see what the result is. And if it's in your favor, we'll do it the way you think it works. And I won't mind at all. If it's in my favor, you just have to come to terms with the fact that we'll do it this way. Oh, that was close. Holy crap, the game lagged right there when I cast a fireball. Oh, another bug about this game. Creatures can move through your range attacks, spells, and items. They'll just pass right through them as if you never cast it. A fireball will do damage to a wight. They don't get to avoid it entirely, but that time it totally ignored it as it just moved forward through it because the game lagged. Another fault that this game has. So the fate roll is something that my players, and I've done this since college, they've loved this rule. They feel it's fair. They know it's in their favor. And, it just quickly solves a problem. Sometimes my players and I might really be like, we really think it works this way, in which case we'll stop, we'll go and get the rule books and look it up. But for solving quick issues or solving issues quickly, I suppose the second is more accurate to say, this really works. On that note, when it comes to rule discussions, you can't let your players walk over you. You have to constrain them, especially if you think something should really, really, really work a certain way. Then you have to override them. But be fair with what you're saying. But if you do give in to your players often, they will continue to walk over you. So they need to be challenged, and they need to work within a certain framework. And you are providing that environment. Try to make sure that they don't take advantage of you, or you will find that you don't like playing with them. And, well, if you don't like playing with your players, you should stop the game immediately. I've been part of a player group whose we encountered really poor behavior from one of our players, and we all just stopped playing the game when it occurred. I'm not going to get into the details of it, but it didn't work out well, and we all agreed that we should just stop rather than confront the player who was giving us the trouble, as it were. But that's always sad when you put down a campaign. And I myself, I don't like confrontation very much, so I try to come at things sideways. And it just occurs to me that I have 2 minutes left of this video, and we're done. So I think I should probably stop here. We'll focus on Dungeon Hack for the last of it. And when we come back, we'll talk more about rule disagreements, because I want to talk a little bit more about it before we move on to some other dungeon mastering stuff. Hopefully this was more interesting than the last video was, or as interesting as the last video was. I see I got almost 500 people who watched the first video in this series. What the heck, people? Why are you... Maybe I should be recording Dungeon Hack for real. Focusing entirely on the game. 500 people? What? That's nuts. That's nuts for my channel. I'm a little tiny channel. I'm not supposed to get 500 people watching a video. This is crazy. It's crazy. Hopefully this was interesting. Hope you guys found the talk entertaining. And if you guys have any questions for me about this sort of thing, just, or comments, leave them here. And I'll do my best to try to get to them at some point. I won't turn this into a comment reading session, though, like I have done in other videos, because I want to focus on the stuff I want to, Darn it, I don't know a nice way to say it. I want to focus on not comments for most of the video, so I won't turn it into a comment reading session. But I will talk to your comments if you have anything to say. So I'll just try to make sure I don't do it for longer than like maybe 10 minutes for one of these videos. All right, we got 30 seconds left or so, everyone. I'm buffing myself before we're heading down to the next dungeon level. So thank you guys for watching. I'm about to end this, and I will hopefully see you all, or hopefully you guys will hear me speak in the next one. Take care, everyone, and thanks for listening. Awkward silences. Really awkward silences. Level 4.